After 8 decades of life, 2 marriages, and countless societal expectations, I've stumbled upon a truth that might surprise you. Being single in my golden years is the most liberating experience of my life. You might be wondering, why would an 80-year-old man choose to be alone? Well, that's precisely what we're going to explore today. And let me tell you, it's not for the reasons you might think. So, whether you're young and curious, middle-aged and questioning, or in your later years and considering a change, I invite you to join me on this journey. You might just discover that the path to true happiness in our golden years isn't what you've been led to believe. Then, let's dive in. The truth might just surprise you. 1. True happiness comes from within. You know what? It took me 80 years to figure this out. Happiness isn't about having someone by your side. It's about being comfortable in your own skin. I've been married, I've been single. And let me tell you, I'm happier now than ever before. Why? Because I've learned to enjoy my own company. I don't need external validation anymore. My happiness comes from within, and it's liberating. It's like finding a well of joy inside yourself that never runs dry. And the best part? No one can take it away from you. Let me give you an example. Last Christmas, I spent the day alone. In the past, this would have devastated me. I would have felt lonely, maybe even a bit sorry for myself. But you know what I did? I woke up early, made myself a fantastic breakfast, called my kids to wish them Merry Christmas, then spent the day doing exactly what I wanted. I read a book I'd been meaning to get to, watched my favorite old movies, and even tried out a new recipe. By the end of the day, I realized I'd had one of the best Christmases in years. Not because of any external factors, but because I was at peace with myself. I enjoyed my own company. That's what I mean when I say happiness comes from within. Now, don't get me wrong, this didn't happen overnight. It took years of self-reflection, of learning to appreciate myself, of understanding that my worth isn't tied to my relationship status. It's a journey, and it's different for everyone. But once you get there, it's like unlocking a secret level of life you never knew existed. So, my advice? Start small. Spend time alone. Learn to enjoy your own company. Find hobbies that fulfill you. Meditate, journal. Do things that make you happy, not because they impress others, but because they truly bring you joy. It's a practice, but I promise you, it's worth it. 2. The freedom to prioritize mental health and self-care. Let's talk about something we often overlook: our mental health. When you're single at my age, you have all the time in the world to take care of yourself. No compromises. I meditate every morning. I see a therapist when I need to. I take long walks when I feel like it. It's not selfish, it's necessary. Your mental health is your wealth. And when you're single, you can invest in it fully. It's like being the CEO of your own well-being. Trust me, it pays off. Now, I wasn't always this way. For years, I neglected my mental health. I was too busy trying to be a good husband, a good father, a good employee. I put everyone else's needs before my own. And you know where that got me? Burnt out, stressed, and ultimately unhappy. But being single in my later years has given me the freedom to prioritize myself. I remember the first time I decided to see a therapist. It was after my second divorce, and I was struggling. In the past, I might have tried to tough it out, but this time, I decided to seek help. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Therapy helped me understand myself better. It gave me tools to manage stress and anxiety. It helped me process my past relationships and learn from them. And most importantly, it taught me the value of self-care. Now, my self-care routine is non-negotiable. I start each day with 20 minutes of meditation. It clears my mind and sets a positive tone for the day. I take a walk in the park every afternoon, rain or shine. The fresh air and exercise do wonders for my mood. I've even started practicing yoga. Who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks? But self-care isn't just about activities. It's also about setting boundaries. Being single means I can say no to things that don't serve me. If I'm tired, I can cancel plans without feeling guilty. If I need a day to recharge, I take it. This kind of freedom is priceless. So, if you're single, especially in your later years, I urge you to make mental health and self-care a priority. Start small if you need to. Maybe it's just 5 minutes of deep breathing each day. Maybe it's treating yourself to a nice meal once a week. Whatever it is, do it consistently. Your future self will thank you. 3. Deeper connections with friends and family. Here's a surprise. Being single has actually improved my relationships. Sounds crazy, right? But it's true. I have deeper connections now than ever before. Why? Because I choose my relationships. I'm not tied down by obligation. I spend time with people because I want to, not because I have to. My friendships are richer. My relationship with my kids, better than ever. It's quality over quantity. And let me tell you, at this age, that's what really matters. Let me explain. When I was married, a lot of my social interactions were dictated by my spouse. We'd go to dinner parties with her friends, or spend weekends with couples we both knew. Don't get me wrong, these were nice people. But they weren't necessarily the people I would have chosen to spend my time with if left to my own devices. Now, I get to choose my social circle. And you know what? It's smaller, but it's so much more fulfilling. I have a group of friends, mostly other singles, but some couples too, who I connect with on a deep level. We have meaningful conversations. We support each other through tough times. We celebrate each other's joys. Take my friend Bob, for instance. We've known each other for 40 years, but it's only in the past decade, since we've both been single, that our friendship has really blossomed. We meet every Wednesday for coffee. Sometimes we talk for hours about life, philosophy, our hopes and fears. Other times we just sit in comfortable silence, enjoying each other's company. That's the kind of friendship that enriches your life. And my family relationships? They've improved too. When I was married, I sometimes felt torn between my spouse and my kids. Now I can focus on being the best father and grandfather I can be. I have weekly video calls with each of my children. I attend my grandkids' recitals and ball games whenever I can. And when we're together, I'm fully present. I'm not distracted by marital issues or trying to balance everyone's needs. But here's the key. These relationships are strong because I've put in the effort. Being single doesn't automatically make your connections deeper. You have to work at it. Reach out to people. Be vulnerable. Show up when it matters. It's not always easy, especially if you're used to relying on a partner for your social life. But it's so worth it. So if you're single, especially later in life, don't isolate yourself. Cultivate your friendships. Strengthen your family ties. Build a support network. These connections will enrich your life in ways you can't imagine. 4. Living life entirely on your own terms. Freedom. That's what it's all about. At 80, I live life exactly how I want to. No compromises, no explanations. If I want to eat ice cream for breakfast, I do it. If I want to travel to Tibet, I book the ticket. There's no one to consult, no one to consider. It's liberating, it's empowering. It's like being the author of your own life story. And let me tell you, it's a bestseller. Now, don't get me wrong. This kind of freedom can be scary at first. When you've spent most of your life considering someone else's needs and wants, suddenly having complete autonomy can be overwhelming. I remember the first few months after my last divorce. I felt lost. I didn't know what to do with all this freedom. But then, slowly, I started to rediscover myself. I started doing things I'd always wanted to do, but never had the chance. I took up painting. I'm no Picasso, but I love it. I spend hours in my makeshift studio, just me and my canvas. It's therapeutic. I also started traveling more, not just to popular tourist destinations, but to places I'd always been curious about. Last year, I spent a month in Japan. I immersed myself in the culture, tried new foods, met fascinating people. It was an experience I'll never forget, and one I might not have had if I wasn't single. But living life on your own terms isn't just about big adventures. It's about the small, everyday choices, too. It's about deciding to stay up late reading because you don't have to worry about disturbing anyone. It's about decorating your home exactly how you want it. It's about spending a whole day in your pajamas, if that's what you feel like doing. One of the best things about living life on my own terms is the spontaneity it allows. If I wake up and decide I want to drive to the coast for the day, I can do that. No need to check with anyone or plan around someone else's schedule. This kind of flexibility keeps life exciting, even at 80. Of course, with great freedom comes great responsibility. Living life on your own terms means you're responsible for your own happiness. You can't rely on someone else to fulfill you or make your life meaningful. But that's the beauty of it. You get to create the life you want. So if you're single, embrace this freedom. Use it as an opportunity to rediscover yourself, to pursue your passions, to live authentically. It might be scary at first, but I promise you, it's worth it. Life is too short to live it on anyone else's terms but your own. 5. Financial independence and security. Money talks, doesn't it? Being single at my age means financial freedom. No shared expenses, no unexpected costs. My money is my own. I can spend it how I like, save it how I want. There's a peace of mind that comes with that. No fights about money, no compromises on big purchases. It's like being the captain of your own financial ship. And let me tell you, it's smooth sailing. Now, I know what you're thinking. But isn't it more expensive to live alone? In some ways, yes. You don't have someone to split the bills with. But in my experience, the financial benefits of being single far outweigh the costs. For one, you have complete control over your spending. When I was married, there were always negotiations about how we should spend our money. My first wife loved expensive vacations. My second wife was all about home renovations. And while there's nothing wrong with those things, they weren't always how I would have chosen to spend our money. Now, I get to decide exactly where my money goes. I'm a bit of a minimalist these days. I prefer to spend my money on experiences rather than things. I have a comfortable home, but I don't need anything fancy. Instead, I put my money towards travel, towards classes and workshops that interest me, towards supporting causes I believe in. Being single has also allowed me to be more strategic about my finances. I've been able to max out my retirement contributions, invest in a diversified portfolio, and even start a small business on the side. These are decisions I've made based on my own financial goals, without having to consider anyone else's needs or wants. But perhaps the biggest financial advantage of being single is the peace of mind it brings. I don't have to worry about supporting a partner if something were to happen to me. I don't have to stress about someone else's spending habits affecting my financial security. My financial future is entirely in my own hands, and that's incredibly empowering. Of course, financial independence doesn't happen overnight. It takes planning, discipline, and sometimes tough decisions. But when you're single, you have the freedom to make those decisions without having to compromise. So if you're single, especially later in life, take advantage of this financial freedom. Create a budget that aligns with your values and goals. Save for the future, but don't forget to enjoy the present. Invest in experiences that bring you joy. And remember, financial security isn't just about having a lot of money. It's about having enough to live the life you want. 6. Embracing solitude without loneliness. Here's the kicker. Being alone doesn't mean being lonely. I've learned to enjoy my own company. I have hobbies. I have interests. I have a rich inner life. Solitude, it's not a curse. It's a gift. It's a chance to really get to know yourself, to be comfortable in your own skin. It's like being your own best friend. And trust me, I'm great company. Now, I'll be honest. This didn't come naturally to me at first. After my last divorce, I struggled with loneliness. I was used to having someone around all the time, and suddenly the house felt too quiet. too empty. But over time, I learned to appreciate this solitude. I learned to fill it with things that truly matter to me. One of the first things I did was to develop a morning routine. I wake up early, make myself a cup of coffee, and spend an hour reading. Sometimes it's the newspaper. Sometimes it's a good book. This quiet time sets the tone for my day. It's my time to think, to reflect, to prepare myself for whatever lies ahead. I've also discovered the joy of solo hobbies. I took up woodworking a few years ago. There's something incredibly satisfying about creating something with your own hands. I spend hours in my workshop, just me and my projects. It's meditative, really. And at the end, I have something tangible to show for my time. But embracing solitude isn't just about keeping busy. It's about learning to be comfortable with silence. It's about enjoying your own thoughts, your own company. I often take long walks in nature. No music, no podcasts, just me and the world around me. It's during these walks that I often have my best ideas or work through problems that have been bothering me. One thing I've learned is that solitude gives you the space to really get to know yourself. When you're always surrounded by others, it's easy to lose touch with your own thoughts and feelings. But when you're alone, you have the time and space to reflect, to understand what truly matters to you. Of course, this doesn't mean I've become a hermit. I still enjoy social interactions. I have friends I see regularly, family I love spending time with, but I no longer need these interactions to feel fulfilled. I'm just as happy spending an evening alone as I am spending it with others. So, if you're single, especially later in life, don't fear solitude. Embrace it. Use it as an opportunity for self-discovery and personal growth. Develop hobbies that you enjoy doing alone. Create routines that bring you peace and contentment. Learn to enjoy your own company. Because when you're comfortable being alone, you're never truly lonely. 7. Freedom from the expectations of partnership. You know what's exhausting? Living up to someone else's expectations. When you're single, that pressure is gone. No more compromising on how you spend your time. No more arguments about whose turn it is to do the dishes. It's liberating. It's like taking off a heavy backpack you didn't even realize you were carrying. The relief? It's indescribable. Let me tell you, when I was married, there were always expectations. My first wife expected me to be the breadwinner, to work long hours to provide a certain lifestyle. My second wife wanted me to be more emotionally available, to talk about my feelings all the time. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with these expectations, they weren't always aligned with who I am as a person. Now, don't get me wrong. Relationships require compromise. That's normal and healthy. But sometimes, in trying to meet our partner's expectations, we can lose sight of our own needs and desires. We can start to feel like we're living someone else's life, not our own. Being single has freed me from these expectations. I no longer have to justify how I spend my time. If I want to spend a whole weekend watching old movies, I can do that without feeling guilty. If I want to eat cereal for dinner, there's no one to judge me. If I leave the dishes in the sink overnight, the only person it affects is me. A few years ago, I decided to downsize and move to a smaller home in a different city. It was a decision I made entirely on my own, based on what I wanted for this stage of my life. I didn't have to consider anyone else's career, or whether they'd be happy in a new place. I just did what felt right for me. This freedom from expectations extends to social situations too. When you're part of a couple, there's often pressure to attend certain events, to socialize with other couples, to maintain a certain image. As a single person, I'm free from all that. I choose which invitations to accept based solely on what I want to do, not what's expected of me as part of a couple. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean I'm selfish or that I don't consider others. I still have responsibilities to my family and friends. But these are responsibilities I've chosen, not ones that have been thrust upon me by the expectations of a partnership. So, if you're single, especially later in life, embrace this freedom. Use it as an opportunity to live authentically, to make decisions based on your own wants and needs. It's okay to put yourself first. In fact, it's more than okay. It's necessary for your happiness and well-being. 8. Pursuing passions and lifelong learning. At 80, I'm still learning. Can you believe it? I'm taking online courses. I'm learning a new language. I'm exploring new hobbies. Being single gives me the time and energy to pursue my passions. There's no one to tell me it's a waste of time or money. It's all about personal growth. It's like being a student of life. And let me tell you, it keeps you young. You know, when I was younger, I always thought there would come a time when I'd stop learning, when I'd know everything I needed to know. How wrong I was. The older I get, the more I realize how much there is to learn, how much the world has to offer. Last year, I decided to learn Italian. Why? Well, why not? I've always loved Italian culture, and I thought it would be fun to be able to read Dante in the original language. So, I signed up for an online course. It's challenging, sure. My memory isn't what it used to be. But it's also incredibly rewarding. Every time I master a new phrase or understand a complex grammatical rule, I feel a sense of achievement that's hard to describe. And it's not just formal learning. I'm constantly exploring new hobbies and interests. A few months ago, I took up birdwatching. It started as a way to pass time during my daily walks, but it's turned into a real passion. I've joined a local birdwatching group, and we go on excursions every month. It's not just about spotting birds. It's about being in nature, learning about ecosystems, and connecting with like-minded people. Being single has given me the freedom to pursue these passions fully. I don't have to justify spending money on Italian textbooks or binoculars. I don't have to negotiate time for my hobbies. My time is my own, and I can dedicate as much of it as I want to learning and growing. This pursuit of passions and lifelong learning has benefits beyond just personal fulfillment. It keeps my mind sharp. It gives me things to look forward to. It provides opportunities to meet new people and make new friends. In many ways, it's what keeps me young at heart. So, if you're single, especially in your later years, I encourage you to embrace this opportunity for growth and learning. Take that class you've always been interested in. Pick up that hobby you never had time for. Learn something new every day. It's never too late to start, and the rewards are immeasurable. 9. Maintaining personal space and routines. My space, my rules. That's the beauty of being single at my age. I can arrange my home exactly how I want it. I can follow my own routines without disruption. It's comfortable. It's predictable. It's soothing. My home is my sanctuary. It's tailored to my needs and my preferences. It's like having a custom-made life, and it fits perfectly. You know, when you've lived with someone for years, you get used to compromising on everything, from how to load the dishwasher to what time to go to bed. And while compromise is important in relationships, there's something incredibly freeing about not having to do it all the time. Take my living room, for example. It's set up exactly how I like it. My favorite armchair is by the window, where I get the best light for reading. My bookshelves are organized by genre and author, just the way I prefer. There's no negotiating about where to put the TV or whose art goes on the walls. Everything is exactly where I want it to be. But it's not just about the physical space, it's about the routines, too. I'm a morning person. I like to wake up early, have my coffee, and read the news in peace. When I was married, this routine was often disrupted. My second wife was a night owl, and she'd often be up late, making noise when I was trying to sleep. Now, I can stick to the schedule that works best for me. This control over my environment and routines has had a profound impact on my well-being. There's a comfort in knowing that things will be just as I left them when I come home. There's a peace in being able to predict how my day will unfold. It reduces stress and anxiety, and it allows me to focus my energy on the things that truly matter to me. Now, I'm not saying you need to be rigid or inflexible. Part of the joy of living alone is that you can change things up whenever you want. If I decide I want to eat dinner at 9 p.m. instead of 6 p.m., I can do that. If I want to rearrange my furniture on a whim, there's no one to object. This level of control over your personal space and routines might seem trivial, but it's not. It's about creating an environment that supports your well-being and reflects who you are. It's about honoring your own preferences and needs. And when you're single, especially in your later years, this becomes not just possible, but essential. So if you're single, take the time to create a living space that truly feels like home to you. Establish routines that support your well-being. Enjoy the freedom to live in a way that's authentic to who you are. It's one of the great joys of single life. 10. Reflections on past relationships and personal growth. Looking back, I don't regret my past relationships. They taught me a lot. About love, about life, about myself, but they also showed me what I don't want. They helped me grow. They helped me understand what truly makes me happy. It's like reading a book. Each chapter teaches you something. And now? I'm writing the final chapters. And they're the best ones yet. You know, it's easy to look at failed relationships as just that, failures. But I've come to see them differently. Each relationship I've had, including my 2 marriages, has been a crucial part of my journey. They've all contributed to making me who I am today. My first marriage taught me about commitment and responsibility. We were young when we got married, and we grew up together in many ways. But as we grew apart. It was painful at the time, but it taught me that love isn't always enough. You need shared values, shared goals. My second marriage was different. We were older, more established in our lives. This relationship taught me about companionship, about the importance of emotional connection. But it also taught me that it's possible to lose yourself in a relationship if you're not careful. The end of each relationship was difficult, of course. Divorce is never easy. But each time, as I worked through the pain and the grief, I learned more about myself. I learned what I need in a relationship. But more importantly, I learned what I need to be happy on my own. And that's the key, I think. These relationships and their endings forced me to confront myself, to really look at who I am, what I want, what makes me happy. They pushed me to grow in ways I might not have otherwise. Now, at 80, I can look back on all of this with a sense of gratitude. Each relationship, each heartbreak, each moment of joy, they've all been part of my story. They've all contributed to my personal growth. And you know what? I like who I've become. I'm more self-aware now than I've ever been. I'm more comfortable in my own skin. I know what I want, and I'm not afraid to go after it. I'm kinder to myself and to others. I'm more patient, more understanding. So if you're single, especially after a long-term relationship or marriage, don't see it as a failure. See it as an opportunity for growth. Reflect on your past relationships. What did they teach you? How did they help you grow? Use these insights to become the best version of yourself. Remember, every relationship, every experience is a chance to learn and grow. And the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Nurture that relationship. Invest in it. Because when you're truly comfortable with yourself, you're never really alone. Remember, there's no one right way to live. What matters is that you're true to yourself, that you're living a life that brings you joy and fulfillment. Whether that's in a relationship or on your own, the choice is yours. So here's to the single life, to freedom, to self-discovery, to growth. Here's to writing our own stories, on our own terms. Because let me tell you, at 80 years old, I'm having the time of my life. And the best part? The story's not over yet. There's still so much to learn, so much to experience, so much life to live. And I'm excited for every moment of it. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this video. Your interest and support mean the world to me. If you enjoyed this content and want to hear more of my thoughts on life, love, and everything in between, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's never too late to learn something new, right? And hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Are you single? In a relationship? What's your take on what I've shared today? Drop a comment below and let's get a conversation going. Remember, life is what you make of it at any age. So make it a good one. Until next time, take care and stay curious.